Hello children. So once again I am here with a new video for you all, and the topic of this video is landforms. Right now, before we start with this chapter, with this topic, do you know anything about the landforms? You must have heard about landforms many times, but what is the actual meaning of the landforms? What is the actual meaning of it? Actually, in the beginning it was believed that the earth got originated and from the sun, and it was actually formed of the semi-molten matter, and when it cooled down it developed into the surface of earth developed into several ups and downs, right? It was not a flat surface, but it was actually turned into several, you can say, undulated landforms were there, and with several highlands and several low-lying areas, and these are forming now the physical features which are present on the earth's surface, and these physical features are called as the different landforms. Okay, so what are these different forms of land features we can find on the earth's surface? Major landforms what we can find are the number one, the highest ones are called the mountains, then a little lower than that is hill, then highlands or generally the plateaus, and then the plain areas, and also the valleys. Okay, so these are major landforms what we can find on the earth's surface. Right now, in this topic we have to study about these different landforms only. First, you can see in this picture, these are the mountains, then these are the plateaus. Plateaus are also called as the tableland because of their shape, just like a table, okay, with a flat top. Then the plains and the valleys, right? Now, what can be the causes behind the formation of these landforms? It is believed that the plate tectonics are the main reason, okay, the main factor behind the formation of different landforms, because what we know that the entire earth surface is divided into several plates. Okay, all the continents and oceans are actually lying over certain big land masses, and these big land masses are called as plates. And when these plates, actually it is believed that all these plates keep moving towards each other or away from each other, or they just move very close to the other one. So these three type of movements we can find in the plates, and whenever they move, suppose whenever they move towards each other, they collide, and that results into different landforms, especially the highlands, the mountains, and the volcanic activities can be there, right? When they move away from each other, they leave some gap in between, so naturally the space is left and the crack will develop, and that results into the formation of, again, the volcanic, you can say, magma starts coming out, and it leads to the development of any volcanic features, volcanic landforms, right? Or it just passes very close to the other one. So these are the different ways how the plate tectonics is believed to be one of the factors behind the formation of landforms on the earth's surface, right? Now basically it is actually the movement which causes the when the two plates move towards each other. Whenever there are sedimentary rocks lying in between, it results into the formation of fold mountains. Okay, when the two plates move towards each other, they actually cause the surface, which is made up of sedimentary rock. Generally sedimentary rocks are called as the soft rock, and they get compressed, okay, because of this the two forces which are applying, which are actually working from both the sides, that causes these sedimentary rocks to get folded. The folds develop over that, okay, and these folds result into the formation of upfolds, the upper parts, which are then called as the anticlines, and the low-lying parts are called as the synclines. So the upfolds or the anticlines result into the formation of fold mountains, and the in-between low-lying areas or the synclines result into the formation of valleys. So in this way, plate tectonics clearly it results into the formation of mountains, okay, mountains and valleys, and this type of movement is called as orogenic movement. Orogenic means, oro means mountain, okay, orogenic means mountain building movement, any movement which leads to the formation of mountains on the earth's surface. This much is clear. Then come to the next one. Next is uplift and submergence. It is again the second factor what we think that what actually works behind the formation of landforms on the earth's surface is actually in the form of uplifting or the submergence of a huge, a big sized landmass, right? So what happens then? Due to any reason it may be, due to any, it can be at several cases due to the plate tectonic movement, okay, or some internal movement. The vertical movements actually work in this, okay. So vertical movement means what? The landmass vertically goes up or down. A part of land actually due to some internal movements goes up. That means it gets uplifted, or a huge landmass all of a sudden subsides down, right? So if it is the normal, suppose land area is there, so it will subside down, and if it is very close to the ocean body, right, and it subsides down, so it forms a part of the ocean, it submerges under the ocean water, right? So in this manner, whenever it happens, that actually leads to the formation of a part of continent or a part of ocean. Understood? So this actually, that is why it is this type of movement is also termed as the epeirogenic movement. Epeiro, right? Epeiro, E-P-E-I-R-O. Epeiro means continent. Epeirogenic means the movements which result into the formation of continents. So it is also called as continent building movement, right? So generally, due to the upliftment or submergence of land, this type of movement, vertical movement of landmass, causes either the formation of any a part of continent or ocean, or on small scale when it happens, that results into the formation of a block mountain or a rift valley, right? So it can be the result of the upliftment and submergence also, okay. So when it results into the formation of a mountain and valley, so in that case it is called as orogenic. But otherwise, when it results into the formation of continents and ocean body, that is called as continent building movement. I hope this is clear to you. Now come to the next one. Basically, when we talk about the movements, various factors or the various movement which work over the earth's surface or inside the earth's surface, these can be categorized as in two types, right? Number one is called exogenic, the other one is called endogenic. Now what is actually endogenic? Endo means from internally, right? The forces which work from internally, from inside the earth, such forces are called as endogenic forces, and which result into the formation of landforms on the earth's surface. But what about exogenic forces? Exogenic, external, okay. So these forces always work over the earth's surface, externally on the earth's surface. They have nothing to do with the interior, you can say the various forces which work from interior of the earth. They have nothing to do with it. So exogenic is totally external force, right, which works on the various landforms, and endogenic forces are totally the forces which are working from the interiors of the earth's surface, from inside the earth, and that results into the formation of different landforms on the earth's surface. So because of that, these are also termed as constructive forces, okay. constructive because they construct various landforms on the earth's surface. But when we talk about exogenic forces include the erosional and depositional features. Erosion, weathering and all these activities come under exogenic forces. So what is their work? Once the landform has been formed on the earth's surface, suppose any mountain or plateau has been formed. So what happens then? Immediately these forces start working. Okay. Immediately the weathering and erosion starts working over that, and they start doing their work in what manner? They actually continuously work in lowering down these higher landforms. Okay. So what is their work? Their work is destructive, right? And that's why these forces are also many times termed as destructive forces. Got it? Endogenic forces are constructive. Exogenic are also many times termed as destructive forces. Okay. Now endogenic forces. Endogenic forces can be again of two types. One can be, suppose, sudden forces, right? All of a sudden, suppose any volcano erupts, right? That is a sudden movement. Any earthquake occurs, that is a sudden movement again. But all these happen from inside, right? So these come under the sudden forces. But when we talk about the other type, that is very slow movement. That means when any landform is being formed, suppose any mountain building force or the continent building force is working. So all these building forces, right, especially the mountain building forces, when they work, they are always coming under diastrophic forces. Okay. All these in the forces which work from interior of the earth's surface, these forces come under one major category, that is called diastrophic forces. All these forces come under diastrophic forces, right? So whether it is mountain building or it is continent building, all are under diastrophic forces, right? Now, endogenic processes, these are actually in this manner I have shown you so that it will become a little clear to you. Generally, just I told you that sudden movements and slow movements take place, right? Slow movements are also termed as diastrophism or diastrophic movement. Okay. In this, what we have discussed just now in the earlier part, that vertical movement or horizontal movement. That means vertical means it comes eperogenic or the continent building movement comes under it. Why vertical? Because they always work vertically, right? Along a crack which is called a fault, a part of land is uplifted towards upside or a part of land mass subsides down. So what is the movement? Vertical. That's why it is also called as vertical movement, eperogenic movement or continent building movement, right? Same way, when we talk about the other one, orogenic movement or mountain building movement, these work generally horizontally. Okay, when there is a push from both the sides, the compressional forces work. So what is the result? It causes, when the surface is formed of sedimentary rock, it starts getting folded, develop into folds, right? That results into the folds to develop. So the upfolds result into the formation of mountains, and the almost parallel deeper parts are forming the valleys. The other one can be, if the surface is not made up of sedimentary rock, it is suppose any of the hard rocks, it can be igneous or metamorphic. So it will never get folded. Keep this in mind very clearly, because the sedimentary rocks can get folded, but not the other two, that is the igneous and metamorphic, because these are very resistant, very hard rocks. Okay, so if they don't get folded, what happens then? Crack develops in them, right, which is called fault, and along that fault a part of land again gets uplifted or a part of land subsides down. So what is this called? This is called faulting. Okay, this process, which is the result of this type of movement, is called as faulting, right? And as a result of faulting, the higher part of land which is formed results into the horst. It is called horst, H-O-R-S-T, or many times it is also called as block mountains. And the deeper parts, nearby deeper parts which are formed, these are called as the rift valleys, or these are also termed as graben, G-R-A-B-E-N, graben. Okay, so you can see the forces of compression results into fold mountains, and forces of tension result into the fault mountains, right? So altogether these come under the endogenic processes. Endogenic means which work from internally, right? Now when we talk about these major landforms of the earth, first comes the mountain. Mountain means a natural elevation of the earth's surface having considerable mass, generally steep sides. Okay, these are the tallest landform features on the earth's surface. Now basically these can be classified into three major types. Number one is fold mountain, number two the block mountains, and number three volcanic mountains. Okay, and another one generally we call it as the residual mountain. Now let's talk about all these one by one. First of all, when we talk about the fold mountains are in the earlier part. Just now I told you that whenever the surface is made up of the sedimentary rocks, okay, and from both the sides the compressional forces work. So as a result of compressional forces, you can see here the folds are resulted, and these folds develop into the highlands, higher, you can say the upfolds result into the formation of high mountains, and the in between lower parts are resulting into the formation of valleys, right? So this way the fold mountains are formed, and you can see here from both the sides when the compressional forces work, the sedimentary rocks get folded. You can see just like the waves when they are formed, just like that it is, right? So the upper parts are anticlines, lower parts syncline, and the mountains and valleys are formed. Okay, now these young fold mountains and old fold mountains, actually these fold mountains can be classified into two types according to the age of their formation, right? Generally the mountains which have been formed recently, actually the fold mountains which have been formed in the recent geological past, right, they have got a recent origin. Such mountains are called as the young fold mountains, right? They have the pointed peaks, right? These are very high mountains. Their slopes are very you can say these are very steep, right? So these are one type. But if we take the fold mountains which have been formed long back, right, in the geological past, so such mountains are termed as old fold mountains. Okay, so according to the period during which they have been there on the earth's surface, right, since long they were there on the earth's surface, so they have experienced a lot of erosion and weathering also side by side. So that has resulted into the pointed peaks to get changed into rounded peaks. Okay, and the steep slopes have become now the gentle slopes. The high you can say mountains have turned into low you can say altitudinal mountains. So these are the features of old fold mountains. Then after this, the old fold mountain, you can see here the points have been given to you. 250 million years old, basically old fold mountains. Generally it's very old, right? And suppose these have been formed recent, suppose 60-65 million years back, right? So these are called as young fold mountains. Clear? If you take the examples of all these, the old fold mountains include like Ural mountains, okay, then Appalachians. These are the old fold mountains. But what among the young fold mountains? Young fold mountains include Himalayas, right? Himalayas are believed to be still rising up at present, right? They are still in their rising form. So that is the Himalayas, then Rockies, then Andes. All these are the young fold mountains. Now the next one is residual mountain. What is residual? Just now I told you in the earlier part again, like old fold mountain. Okay, what happens? Any mountain which is the result of any activity. It can be folding, it can be faulting, it can be volcanic activity, whatever may be the reason behind it. But when these mountains were formed, since that time, now it has been a long period, right? So what is the result? These mountains which were earlier formed with a very high altitude and the peaks were pointed and all that, now they have been reduced to a very low height. Okay, that means they are now the residue of these mountains is left now. Okay, and that is how we have got this name residual, which is a residue of the original mountain. Got it? So generally these mountains originally were very high mountains, but now because of a long process of denudation, okay, that's why these are also many times called as the mountains of denudation, because the agents of weathering and erosion which keep on working in lowering down these mountains, these agents are altogether called as the agents of denudation, right? And so these mountains are also termed as the mountains of denudation. Clear? So these are residual mountains. Now if you talk about the old fold mountains can be considered as residual mountain example also. So I hope this much is clear to you all. Now come to the block mountains. What are the block mountains? Especially when these are the result of faulting. Folding we have discussed in the earlier part, right? What is faulting? This also we have discussed in the beginning. What happens, because of the rock, suppose the surface is made up of any hard rock, any of the resistant rocks, right? So instead of getting folded, what happens? A fracture develops, or you can say a crack develops in that, right? So what is the result of it? Basically one part of land along that plane, right, along that fault plane, a part of land all of a sudden subsides down, or it is pushed upside, or it gets uplifted. So that results into the formation of a higher part which is called block mountain and a lower part which is called rift valley, right? So again the mountain which is formed, that is called block mountain. So by folding, if it is the mountain which is formed, that is called as fold mountain. If faulting is the reason behind it, it is called block mountain or horst, right? If it has been due to any reason, but now it has been reduced to a low height because of long process of denudation, right? So that mountain can be termed as residual mountain. Okay. So if you give any example of a block mountain, you can say like Sierra Nevada, right? Then Black Forest Mountain. These are the examples of block mountains. And most of the cases you'll find the block mountains are the result of tension, right? Tensional forces working on opposite sides, or in certain cases when the surface is made up of hard rocks, resistant rocks, right? So in that case also compressional forces, when they work, it results into the formation of the development of a fault, and along a fault a mountain is formed, right? A part of land which is uplifted, that forms a mountain called block mountain. So in both cases the block mountains can be formed, right? And the low-lying area formed, which is in between the higher parts, are called as the rift valley, or many times also called as graben. Okay. So now residual mountain is also clear to you. Now volcanic mountains, basically these are the result of volcanic activities. Okay, whenever the magma or in the form of lava, when it is thrown out by volcanic eruption, it results into the formation of a vent. it results into the formation of a cone around the vent or that opening, and that results into the formation of volcanic mountains. These are the volcanic mountains. Now the next landmass which we have to discuss here is the plateau. Okay, so when we talk about the plateaus, plateaus are the highlands. Generally we use the word highlands, but highlands is not the correct term for this, because you know highlands means it can be a hill, it can be a mountain also. But when we say highland, basically the tableland is the correct word for it. Okay, tableland means almost it looks like a table, right? Or the tables what we use at our homes and the offices and all. So the table, actually the top is always flat, and it can be, the sides can be both. It can be gentle as well as steep, right? So plateaus, basically, again, these are the landforms. Most of the time you'll find the plateaus are rich with minerals. Okay. Now these are landforms that are found in mostly the mountainous areas. Okay. And these are located in between many times the mountains, and such plateaus which are lying in between the mountain ranges are called as intermontane plateau. So here we have to talk about two type of plateaus. One is intermontane plateau, which is, you can see here in this picture, it's very clear the two ranges are there, mountain ranges are there. In between the two ranges, if any plateau is lying, that is called as intermontane plateau. Means inter means in between, montane means mountains. Okay, so that is called as intermontane plateau. And the best example of it we can give from the Himalayas itself, that is you can say the Tibetan plateau is the best example of it, right? Anatolian plateau, Colombian plateau, all these are the examples of the intermontane plateau. Now the second type of plateau we have to discuss is about the volcanic plateau. The second type, right? Volcanic, by the name only it's very clear, the plateau which is formed by the volcanic activities, right? Now most of the time you'll find the volcanic mountains, if they have been reduced to a low height forming a plateau, that can be called as a volcanic plateau, or actually it is formed by the fissure type volcano most commonly, right? Now what is fissure type volcano? Whenever through a crack the magma comes out in the form of lava and it spreads over the nearby area, and layer by layer deposition take place. So whenever the layer by layer deposition has taken place and it cools down, it results into the formation of a higher landform, and that is actually a plateau, which is volcanic plateau, right? In India you can give the best example of Deccan Plateau, right? Deccan Plateau is the example of it, and especially the northwestern part of Deccan Plateau, that is the Deccan Trap we call it, that is specifically, you can say, it is the result of volcanic activity, right? Another example of it, you can say the Colombian Plateau. Colombian Plateau can be taken as intermontane as well as volcanic both, because it is formed by volcanic activities, but because it is lying in between the mountain ranges, so it can be also called as intermontane. Okay, so these are the two type of plateaus we have to study here. Now comes the plains, right? Now when we say plains, plains are generally a low-lying flat surfaced area, right? And these can be the depositional plains as well as the structural plains. Okay, so in geography, basically a plain is considered as a flat sweeping landmass that generally does not change much in elevation, right? It is having almost the same height, almost the same height. Okay, and these occur as lowlands along the valleys or on the foothill of the you can say the mountains, right? So the plains which are formed you can say at the foot of the mountains, foot means Piedmont, these are also called as Piedmont plains, right? Pied means the foot of a mountain, Piedmont, right? Foot of a mountain. So at the base of the mountains, generally the plains which are found are called Piedmont plains, right? The plains which are formed by the depositional activities in different parts, these are called as depositional plains, right? By the name only, it's very clear. And the third one is structural plain. Structural plain is the result of internal movements. Now, the structural plains, first of all, these plains, as I said just now, these are formed due to some upliftment or subsidence of land, right? So, due to diastrophic forces, whenever there is a plane which is the result of all these forces, that plane can be called as a structural plane. We can take the example of the Great Plains of USA. Okay, so that is the best example of you can say structural planes. This is one type. Second type of plane is depositional plane. Depositional means it can be the result of deposition work done by any rivers. It can be the deposition work done by any winds or the waves of sea or oceans. It can be the work of any lake, right? Or it can be the work of any, you can say, glaciers. So in different conditions, these are called by different names, right? Whenever these are the result of river deposition can be seen in two ways. If it is along the, you can say, along the two banks of river in this manner, right? By whenever the flood comes, right? The river overflows. So the water spreads over in the nearby area on both the sides. So that results into the deposition of sediments on both the sides. And that is actually the flood plain, right? The plain which is the result of it, that is called the flood plain. Clear? And one more we can find at the end, when the river is joining the sea or ocean, it forms a delta, right? So delta is also a depositional plain only. So it is, we can say that in both ways, the work of river is there in this, right? So generally the plains formed by rivers are called as riverine plains also. Next is marine deposition. Marine means by the sea or ocean, right? So in the coastal area, whenever the deposition work has been done by the sea waves, that results into the formation of marine depositional plains. Okay. Whenever it is the result of the work of wind, it is called as aeolian, right? AEOLIAN, aeolian plains. The example of it, you can say Loess in China, right? Along the Huanghe River. So these are some examples. Then if it is the work of glaciers, that can be called as glacial plains, right? So in this manner, if it is the result of any lake deposition, that will be called as lacustrine. Now at the end, one more thing we have to discuss here is that the importance of landforms. Now what can be the importance of landforms? You find around yourself several landforms are there, right? Somewhere it is mountain, plateaus, plains, or valleys, river valleys and all. So what can be the importance of it? Keeping all these things in mind, first thing we can say that they add in the natural beauty, right? Scenic beauty. So that can be one reason for attracting the tourists, right? So it can be a source of income for the country, okay, by tourism. Then number two is these landforms represent the relief features of the earth, right? And they are very important in determining the climate of any area. You can take the best example as the Himalayas. Himalayas play a very important role in determining the climate of India, right? They work as a climatic divide. Okay, they don't allow the cold Siberian winds from the central part of Asia to enter in India. On the other side, they don't allow the rain-bearing monsoon winds to cross over the Himalayan region. In this manner, they cause the rainfall throughout India. So in this manner, we can say that the climate is to a great extent influenced by the various landforms. In the case of India, Himalayas play a very important role. Even the Aravallis, because Aravalis are lying parallel to the rain-bearing monsoon winds, so these winds don't cause any rainfall there. Thus, that area has developed into Thar Desert. Okay, so in this manner, the various landforms play a very important role. Next is the mountain ranges of the world, especially the high mountains which are covered with the peaks of these mountains are covered with snow, right? So these snow covered peaks actually provide constant supply of water to the perennial rivers. So that is again one important thing. Okay, then over these mountains at different heights we can find different type of forests develop, right? Vegetation as well as the wildlife. So these help in the development of several, you can say, biodiversity. Then next you can say that when the in the coastal areas, especially the island or the archipelagos and all, you will find several fishing sites develop, right? Then major landforms are created by various disturbances resulting from the forces operating in the interiors of Earth, and which result into the formation of different minerals and all. These landforms, especially I told you when I was explaining the plateaus, right? Plateaus are, most of the time you'll find the plateaus are rich with minerals. Okay, we can take again one example from India. Chota Nagpur plateau is well known for the mineral deposits. Okay, so most of these mountains and plateaus are rich with minerals, very precious metals, very you can say precious gems and stones. Then even we can say that in the sedimentary rock structures we find the fossil fuels and all. So these days fossil fuels play a very important role, right? So keeping all these things in mind, we can say the landforms are very, very important for us, right? At least very important for the mankind. Okay, so that's all with this topic, children. And before I leave, I must remind you once again that don't forget to subscribe the channel and share the link of this video with your friends and classmates. Okay, so see you soon again in the next video. Till then, bye.